Here's something genuinely strange. The man Spain executed for starting a revolution wasn't actually part of the group that started it. He didn't even support an armed uprising. They killed him anyway. That's José Rizal. And the actual armed revolution he supposedly caused? Historians still argue about the exact date and place it even started. This episode covers two novels that terrified an empire, a secret society built on blood oaths, and the exact, contested moment the Philippine Revolution actually began. This is episode 4 of the complete story of the Philippines. Last time, we covered 300 years of Spanish rule, the galleon trade, and the Sangli massacres. This picks up right where that left off. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a small group of writers and one secret society brought down 3 centuries of colonial rule in less than a decade. Let's rewind to 1872 first, because this is where the fuse actually gets lit. 3 Filipino Catholic priests, Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, are executed by Spanish authorities on charges of subversion. Their deaths become known simply as Gumburza, and they radicalize an entire generation of young, educated Filipinos who watch it happen. One of those young Filipinos is a brilliant student named José Rizal, who's just a child in 1872, but grows up haunted by what happened to those 3 priests. Rizal grows up to become genuinely extraordinary. A doctor, a novelist, a linguist fluent in over 20 languages, and an eye surgeon trained in Europe. He's part of a broader movement called the Ilustrados, meaning the enlightened ones, wealthy and educated Filipinos studying in Europe who start pushing for reform back home. In 1887, while living in Berlin, Rizal publishes a novel called Noli Me Tangere, Latin for Touch Me Not. It's a work of fiction, but everyone in the Philippines knows exactly who and what it's really about. The novel exposes corruption within the Spanish friars, abuse of power, and the everyday injustice faced by ordinary Filipinos, and it does it through characters people can actually relate to. Spanish colonial authorities and the Catholic Church react with fury. The book gets banned almost immediately, but smuggled copies spread through the islands anyway. 4 years later, in 1891, Rizal publishes the sequel, El Filibusterismo, in Ghent, Belgium, and this one is even darker, angrier, and more direct. Rizal actually dedicates this second novel directly to the memory of Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, the 3 priests executed back in 1872. He's connecting the dots publicly, on purpose. By this point, Rizal isn't just a novelist anymore. He's become the most dangerous man in the Philippines, according to Spanish authorities, and he hasn't even picked up a weapon. Honestly, imagine terrifying an entire colonial empire just by writing really good fiction. Rizal didn't storm a fort. He wrote 2 books that hit way too close to home. In 1892, Rizal returns to the Philippines and founds La Liga Filipina, a civic organization pushing for peaceful reform, more rights, fair representation, and an end to abuses, not independence, just reform. Spanish authorities aren't interested in reform, though. Within days of founding La Liga Filipina, Rizal is arrested and exiled to Dapitan, a remote town in Mindanao, for the next 4 years. That exile is actually the turning point for the entire independence movement, because it convinces one particular member of La Liga Filipina that peaceful reform simply isn't going to work. Quick gut check. Comment below. Had you heard of La Liga Filipina before this, or did you only know Rizal as the guy from the novels and the execution? Curious how much of this gets taught. That man's name is Andres Bonifacio, a self-educated warehouse clerk, and just weeks after Rizal's exile, he founds a very different kind of organization. July 15th, 1892, Bonifacio founds the Katipunan, a secret society with a mission that's blunt and unmistakable: complete independence from Spain, by force if necessary. New members join through blood oaths, secret passwords, and layered ranks. This is a genuine underground revolutionary organization, modeled loosely on secret Masonic-style structures. Over the next 4 years, the Katipunan grows quietly but steadily, recruiting members across Manila and surrounding provinces, all while staying completely hidden from Spanish authorities. By 1896, membership estimates range into the tens of thousands, spanning multiple provinces, an enormous underground network that Spanish colonial intelligence has almost completely missed. But in August 1896, the secret gets discovered. A Katipunan member reveals the organization's existence to a Spanish friar, and Spanish authorities begin a citywide crackdown almost immediately. With their cover blown, Bonifacio and the Katipunan leadership have to make a decision fast: go into hiding and hope for mercy, or launch the uprising immediately, unprepared. They choose to fight. And this brings us to one of the most genuinely disputed moments in all of Philippine history, the cry that officially begins the revolution. Here's the honest version. Bonifacio and his followers gather and tear up their cedulas, their Spanish-issued community tax certificates, as a dramatic, symbolic act of defiance and rebellion. This moment is called the Cry of Balintawak, or the Cry of Pugad Lawin, depending on which historian, which eyewitness account, and which decade of Philippine textbooks you're reading. Eyewitnesses genuinely disagree. One participant said August 26th in Balintawak, another said August 25th, a third said August 23rd in a place called Pugad Lawin. The accounts don't line up. For over 50 years, from 1908 to 1963, the official government position was August 26th in Balintawak. Then, in 1963, that changed. The Philippine government officially shifted the recognized date and location to August 23rd in Pugad Lawin, based partly on the memoir of a Katipunan member named Pio Valenzuela. But plenty of respected historians still argue that decision was wrong, and that the original Balintawak date and location are actually more historically accurate. This debate genuinely isn't settled. So here's the honest bottom line. Sometime around August 23rd to 26th, 1896, somewhere around Balintawak or Pugad Lawin, the Philippine Revolution officially begins. The spirit of the event is certain, the precise details aren't. What happens next, though, is completely unambiguous. Armed uprisings break out across multiple provinces almost simultaneously, and Spain suddenly finds itself fighting a real, organized war. Spanish authorities panic, and they immediately start looking for someone to blame at the top, someone visible, credible, and already on their radar. They land on Rizal. Here's the cruel irony. Rizal isn't even in the Philippines anymore. He's on his way to Cuba as a volunteer army doctor, with Spanish government approval, when he gets arrested at sea. He's brought back to Manila and imprisoned at Fort Santiago to await trial for a rebellion he had no part in organizing. His trial by court-martial opens on December 26, 1896, and here's the part that should genuinely shock you. The verdict is reached that same day. He's found guilty on 3 charges: founding an illegal society, being responsible for the ongoing rebellion, and treason. Remember, the illegal society charge refers to La Liga Filipina, not the Katipunan he never joined. Meanwhile, revolutionary forces reportedly plan a rescue attempt to break Rizal out before the sentence is carried out. Rizal himself refuses to go along with it. In his final hours, Rizal writes letters to family, speaks with Catholic priests about his beliefs, and composes a farewell poem that would later become one of the most famous pieces of writing in Filipino history. Let's pause and recap. 2 banned novels that terrify an empire, a secret revolutionary society built in the shadows, a disputed uprising somewhere around Balintawak or Pugad Lawin, and a wrongful conviction closing in fast. December 30th, 1896, early morning. Rizal is walked out to a public execution field called Bagumbayan. At 7:03 in the morning, he's executed by firing squad. According to widely repeated accounts, his final act is twisting his body to face upward toward the sky as he falls. He's buried in an unmarked grave at Paco Cemetery, but his family secretly notes the exact location, determined that his death would not be erased. Spanish authorities hoped Rizal's execution would crush the rebellion by making an example of him. Instead, it does the exact opposite. In the weeks that follow, Spanish authorities execute even more suspected nationalists, trying to stamp out the rebellion through fear. It fails completely. Rizal becomes a martyr almost overnight. Revolutionary forces rally harder than ever, now fighting not just for independence, but to honor a man executed for a rebellion he never even joined. Less than 2 years after his execution, Filipino revolutionary forces gain control of most of the country and formally declare independence from Spain. But that independence declaration isn't the end of the story either, not even close. There's internal conflict within the revolutionary movement itself, and a brand new foreign power about to enter the picture entirely. None of this fits the simplified version most people learn. Rizal wrote some books, got executed, and then the Philippines became independent. The real sequence is messier, sadder, and honestly, more compelling. And to be fair and balanced here, the exact date and location of the cry that started the revolution is genuinely still debated by serious historians. We've presented both major accounts rather than picking one as absolute fact. That's what real history looks like. Some parts crystal clear and devastating in their certainty, other parts genuinely contested even a century later. Both things can be true. Second gut check of this episode. Comment below. Does it change how you see Rizal, knowing he was executed for a rebellion he genuinely opposed joining? I want to know what people think. If this changed how you think about Rizal, Bonifacio, or how this revolution actually started, send this to someone who only knows the one-paragraph textbook version. And subscribe if you want the next chapter, because we're heading straight into 1898, and it involves a brand new global power entering the picture, the United States. Because next time, we're covering the Spanish-American War, the Philippine Declaration of Independence, and how the fight for freedom from Spain almost immediately turns into a fight against a completely different empire. We're talking about Emilio Aguinaldo, the Battle of Manila Bay, and the moment the United States decides it's not actually leaving. So if you thought this episode was intense, the Philippine-American War that follows is honestly one of the most tragic and least discussed conflicts in American history too. Alright, quick recap before we go. The 1872 execution of 3 priests that radicalizes a generation. 2 banned novels that terrify a colonial empire. A secret revolutionary society founded on blood oaths. A disputed uprising somewhere around Balintawak or Pugad Lawin in August 1896. A wrongful execution of the movement's most famous intellectual on December 30th, 1896. And a martyrdom that accelerates the revolution rather than crushing it, leading to a declared independence less than 2 years later. This is the part of the story that colonial-era accounts, and even some modern textbooks, flatten into a single, tidy sentence. And it's the part that deserves far more nuance. So no, this wasn't a clean, simple story of one hero writing books and dying for freedom. It was messy, contested, and built on the actions of people who often disagreed with each other about the right path forward. And understanding that complexity, rather than flattening it into a single hero's story, is honestly the whole point of telling this history properly. Thanks for sticking with this one. This was a heavy episode, and these people paid an enormous price for what comes next. Next time, the Spanish-American War, the Philippine Declaration of Independence, and the arrival of a brand new colonial power. See you there.